Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing? Just gonna wait for more people to come on and wait for our brother, Mr. Terence Tillman, to join us as well. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody's doing well. Again, welcome to the African Business Club Sunday Conversations. We are going to be discussing mental health today, but I'm just waiting to get started. Glad to see you. Glad you're here. So I'll give it about 2 more minutes and then I'll go ahead and introduce the topic. Hope everybody's well once again. Hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This should be a really informative, impactful conversation, especially with all the things that are going on right now in our community. We desperately need to know how to maintain mental wealth, emotional health, super important. So stay tuned. All right, I'll get started just in 1 more minute. Yes, okay, I'm gonna do my introduction. Give me another few seconds. I will introduce myself. I just want to save some time before I get started because we are having a guest today as well. All right, so I see our guest has joined us here. So once he calls in, I'm gonna load him up. All right, there we go. So let's see. Waiting for him. Okay. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
Mr. Tillman in the flesh.
Yes.
How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. All right. So I'm going to get started by telling everyone who I am.
Yes.
I'm Nicole. I'm here. I'm going to be your host today. Our topic that we're going to be discussing with Terence Tillman, we're going to be talking about developing mental wealth, positive mental health practices for us African descendants. And just if this is your first time coming here, audience, here at the African Business Club, we are a group of African community members from all across the world, both in the continent and also in the diaspora. And we basically collaborate together to promote financial wellness, financial know-how. We work together on promoting each other's businesses and teaching and educating each other on how to move forward financially in our various different fields. But today we're going to kind of switch the topic a little bit and talk about mental health. And with everything that's going on right now within our community, what's happening right now in Nigeria, the most, biggest thing that's happening right now in the continent, what's been happening with our brothers and sisters in America, and, the Black Lives Matter movement and, all the brutality that our people have suffered from and the trauma that we've suffered from, we feel it across the globe. And I feel like right now what's happening is like African issues, especially our suffering, is being pushed to the forefront. And one of the things that we desperately need to speak to is while we're struggling, while we're protesting, while we're trying to get our voices heard, how are we going to deal with the weight of the trauma of everything? And then that coupled with, COVID, it's been a lot. It's been a
Man.
lot. So we are here with Mr. Terence Tillman, who is a mentor, a life coach, who is on the way to being an author. Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
and we're going to be discussing with him. First, I want you to introduce yourself, and then we'll get on to the discussion. I have some questions for you. So introduce yourself to the
Sure.
group.
Yeah, so I am Terence Tillman. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you to African Business Club 2020 for having me. I really do appreciate it. So yes, I am a certified life coach. I am a speaker. Yes, an aspiring author. Hopefully 2021. I'll look out for that. So just my goal is just to kind of push the culture forward in any type of way that I can, and to help navigate these type of conversations. Now, with that said, I am not a therapist. I am not a psychologist. So I just wanted that to be absolutely clear. But I am an advocate for mental and emotional wellness, because that's so important to me. It's near and dear to my heart. And I think it's necessary, as well as physical, health and things like that. So this should be really on the forefront for us. So
Awesome.
Yeah, I appreciate this so much. Thank you.
Awesome. We're glad to have you. We're very glad to have you. Starting first with definitions. What would you say? Because most times when our people, and people in general, I guess, hear the term mental health, they usually think of people who are on like Prozac, somebody who's depressed, or deeply, suicidal and what have you. We usually think of it as extremes. But what would you say, like, in terms of how we should, explain or define mental health? What is mental health?
So first, I want to just read you just what the definition really is of mental health. And it's, according to the World Health Organization, it's pretty much a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Now, what stands out to me is her own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life. Now, for the Black community, I'm going to be honest, we don't have the privilege of starting off with coping with the normal stresses of life. That's just not the reality, right?
Yeah.
We have so much trauma coming in. It seems like we're born into trauma for a lot of us, right? And we're born into this thing. So we don't have the normal stresses of life, just going to work, coming home, things like that. We have to worry about if I'm going to work, am I going to get to work? Am I going to get home? That's not normal. Those aren't normal stresses of life. We have to worry about the economic struggles that we go through, right? The housing discrimination, just many different things that the normal person doesn't really have to go through, right? So we have to really take that basic definition. As crazy as this sounds, it doesn't apply to us. It doesn't really apply to just who we are. So we really have to kind of say, we have to create our own definition of what mental health is to us, truthfully, because we've come through so much, first of all, and I'm so proud of us because we are survivors, you know what I'm saying? And we do make things work. We do get through it all. But the problem is a lot of our coping mechanisms aren't right. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of us don't even acknowledge us. We don't acknowledge the stuff that we go through on a daily basis. And if we can't acknowledge the stuff that we go through on a daily basis, so how can we be there for others and acknowledge their mental health and their emotional wellness too? So I think it's kind of, I feel like it's a building that has to kind of be blown up, crumbled, torn down, and kind of built all the way back up to how we view mental health in our own communities, because this definition that applies to everybody else, it doesn't really apply to us.
Yeah. And even coping mechanisms too, like you said, the way that we cope with things is different, because I'm going to come from even personally, and I think both of us can relate to this, and everybody watching can relate to the I'm good. The answer that we usually give when somebody asks, how are you, right? And a lot of times we don't even realize that it's just a rote answer. And the truth is sometimes we're really hurting. And because of us not knowing, that not having that emotional intelligence, sometimes we just answer rote and ignore what we're really feeling inside. So how can we develop emotional intelligence?
Mm-hmm. So with that phrase, I'm good, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's something that I didn't, even for me, I didn't realize that I was doing it a lot until, and this is why I say this is until one of my good friends, she asked me a different question. She didn't say, "Oh, hi, Terence, how are you?"
Mm-hmm.
She said, "Terence, how is your soul doing today?"
Wow.
And I said, I said, my soul. I was like, damn, like it made me think, like,
Yes.
truthfully about myself, right? It made me feel like, oh, like I can't just say like, oh, now I'm thinking like, well, damn, how am I feeling today? Like that was a deeper question for me, right? And I think that those are some of the things that we have to start asking our family and our friends, different things. The standard way of what everybody else is doing, like mental health, like the regular way, like we can't do that. I need to know how your soul's doing. Like we have to ask open-ended questions instead of just saying, oh, yeah, how you doing? I'm good. Because everybody's going to say, I'm good. You know what I'm saying? And also open up dialogue with people. Because what I do is I have a list of friends and I'll actually set reminders and I'll set out future dated messages to go out to my friends, and it's nothing too crazy. Just, hey, how you doing? I'm thinking about you, man. I love you, man. You know what I mean? And a lot of times when somebody's going through something that day, they'll read the message and they'll say, man, T, you don't even know what that meant to me because I was really having a really crazy day. I was going through a lot of different things. And then that opens up dialogue. Yeah. Right. So like, I think that we really have to find different ways of asking our fellow brothers and sisters, just how are we doing, but asking in a different way and coming from a different avenue. It's asking different types of questions.
Yeah, because then it can pull out the truth.
It pulls out everything. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and those are kind of and these are practices that salespeople use. Like I don't know how much you know about sales, but I did 10 years in sales. And what they tell you is ask open-ended questions so that the customer tends to open up to you a lot more and divulge things to you naturally instead of just asking just pinpoint questions of, hey, do you want this? Do you want that? Do you want that? No. So instead of saying no, now we're going to ask different questions so that it makes a person think, oh, do I need this? So like there's different psychology, different psychologies when it comes to sales principles that we could apply to our own community. As well. So those are some of the things that I think that we could do differently to kind of start, even for us, that's good practice for our own emotional intelligence, for others, and that also that we could use on ourselves, because even for me now, I do daily check-ins with myself and I say, hey, T, how is your soul doing? And that was impactful because before I wasn't doing that. And I'm a coach, but I wasn't doing it because I always had this complex about myself that I could carry on, that I can carry all, I can deal with it all. I'm Superman, but it's not really true.
Yeah. And it's funny that you said that because with the self check-ins, because I remember one day I was like, my parents got divorced when I was 18 and I thought I was good. Like I thought I had no baggage from that. I was good. But then I didn't realize that I was a barrier. So I used to bury my feelings in other stuff and keeping busy and doing things. And I remember one day me and my cousin were just talking about it. And then I said like 3 words and started bawling, like out loud, sobbing, not realizing that I hadn't dealt with a lot of the trauma from the split up because I thought I was old. I'm like, I'm good. I'm 18. I'm in university, whatever, And so that part of that importance of us having that emotional intelligence. Can you speak to us a little bit about what emotional intelligence is and how we can develop that?
So again, emotional intelligence, I read the exact definition. So it's the capacity to be aware of, control, and express one's emotions and to handle interpersonal relationships judiciously and empathetically. Like that's a whole lot. That is a lot to unpack. And it's a lot to unpack, and that is the key word that I was just about to get to is unpack. So in order for us to get to a point in time where we could have that emotional intelligence is to unpack our own trauma, right? Because if I have so much, because you know, when I work with the youth, you know, in my time working in nonprofit, I would work with kids 15, 16 years old that already had 10 years worth of built up trauma. 10 years.
Wow.
So from 5 years old to 15, 16, they have so much pent up trauma within them and had no outlet. They had no, and nobody ever gave them the permission to say, hey, it is okay to express these things. It was more like, you know what, just keep it moving, keep it pushing, and keep moving each and every day. And then when we do those things, I always say, like, we're very much so like emotional eaters, right? So we're emotional eaters in the sense of we eat our own emotions until it becomes septic within inside of us, and until it kills us, you know, and stress, strife, and all of those things bottled up for so many years. You wonder why we get heart attacks early. You wonder why we get brain aneurysms. You wonder why we get sick internally, because you know what? We only concerned with the physical. Like, we work out, you know, we go to the gym, we have all these things, and there's a place for that. I'm cool with that. I need to go to the gym myself. I'll be right. But if we could only figure out a way to put that much importance into unpacking our own traumas from an early age, and if we can do that, put that in practice from an early age, then the more you release those traumas. And as parents, I'm not a parent yet, but as parents, it's like, hey, teach your kids that it's okay to communicate, that it's okay to express. Please do, because the more that they do that every day, each and every day, then by the time they get to 15, 16 years old, they might be a little bit more whole. They might be a little bit less, they might be free up here and in here, and not have so much anger, you know, and depression and anxiety. So it's just, we have to do a better job of getting our youth from young to say it's healthy to unpack. It's healthy to say what's wrong with you. It's healthy to journal. Like these are things that I find, though, in women, they've done it. Like, you guys have that amazing job. Like, you've done an amazing job from a young age that you guys express. But I feel the reason why that is because you were given the permission to, right? Yes. You know what? Hey, tell me how your day was, you know, talk to me, things like that. Versus men, it's like, no, like, there's no space for that. Don't worry about it. Stop being a crybaby, this and that. And I think we feminize expression and communication way too much with our boys.
I agree. I feel like I'll give you a couple stories. One, my daughter came home this week and just told us, like, you know, they were talking about mental health, because this month, the month of October here in Canada, is Mental Health Awareness Month. And I was really happy about that. But then I realized within even myself, like, how much do I even talk to my kids about how are you really doing? You know, it's more so what we do. How was school? What did you learn? Come, let's do your homework. Let me comb your hair. Like, it's things like that. But we're not really talking to our kids about how they're really feeling, like, deep down inside. Even me, you know, my parents are Jamaican. So you cry, and sometimes like, you want something to cry for? Like, do you want me to give you something to cry for? You know what I'm saying? Like, that type of upbringing. And so for us, a lot, and then even worse, if you're a boy, you better not cry, you know? So it's like, we teach our kids a lot, just kind of like to suppress, not purposely, but just culturally. We formulated this culture around showing your toughness and letting that be your entire, you know, face to the world. That I can take it. I'm strong. I'm a strong Black woman, or I'm a strong Black man, and therefore I don't cry, and all of those things. So how do we can you speak to that a little bit more? How we can teach our kids to really express, you know, and then how do we do that in the confines of, like, the respect? You know, how your parents, are you like, give me back chat or whatever? Like, how do we teach them to respectfully express how they're really feeling about maybe something we've done even as parents?
Well, I think the first thing that we can do is start with ourselves first, because I think that's huge for us, because you can't be a hypocrite, you know, like, you can't expect your kids to express these things and to unpack their traumas and you don't do it yourself. I think once you make it a more healthy practice for you, it'll make it easier for now for you to say to your kids, well, like, let's unpack in a healthy way together. Not saying that you have to, tell them your business or anything like that, but let me hear about your day. Like, what happened in school, right? Like, truthfully, like, what are your friends saying in school? Things like that. Did something upset you? Like, what upset you? Things like that. Like, I want to talk to you, not just as an authoritative figure, right? That it's just, okay, you do this, you do that, you do the other, and you don't cry about anything. You don't express it. That's like, truthfully, that's what's been going on for generations, right? So to me, it really starts with the parent, and saying, because truthfully, if you don't unpack your own traumas, how can you tell your kid how to unpack their traumas in a healthy way? Because you don't even know yourself, right? So I think it starts with us getting the help that we need, going to therapists, seeing somebody, take away the stigma and the shame of speaking to somebody, stop feminizing men all the time and saying, oh, that's what girls do. Like, we have to get to a point to where we can teach our kids more than just what our parents taught us. Right. And so to me, it's just getting a little bit each and every day stuff from your kids and getting them to open up in a different way, asking them different questions. Like I said before, for the adults, but asking kids different, not just how was your day, or what did you do, or what did your teacher say? How was lunchroom? Like certain things, because a lot of things go, I don't know if you know, but a lot of things go down in the lunchroom. You know what I'm saying? A lot of things get crazy in the lunchroom. Like, what are your conversations like with your friends, right? Like, what type of conversations are you having? And kids, a lot of times they'll just start telling you a whole bunch of things, and you'll find out some of the things that they're hearing. And, my mom was a teacher, and I watched her of how she dealt with her kids in her class, because she dealt with kindergarten kids. And the stories that would come out of these kindergarten kids, I thought they was in like the 9th grade. Like the stuff they've already seen, and that they're saying to the teacher, it's like, whoa, like you got a lot going on. You got a lot more than me, and I'm an adult. So it's just providing that safe space for children, respectfully, of course, to open up to you in a different way, not just a hierarchy way, right? Because that's why kids don't want to tell you certain things, because it's like, oh man, it's the warden. The warden's here, and and I can't say certain things. And then you wonder why when they're 12, 13, 14, they don't want to communicate with you. They could be going through depression, anxiety, going through different things. They're in their room with the doors locked and a whole bunch of different things. You have no idea. Right? It's because they don't feel comfortable. They don't have a safe space, or they feel safer with somebody else's parents because they gave them a safer space than you, right? Or they'll talk to their friends who they probably don't know much more about life than they do, because they feel safe and they feel like that they're not going to be judged. And so we have to provide our children a safer space to have those type of conversations with the parents, and to me, that'll foster a whole different environment that yes, they can still respect the hierarchy of a parent, but also say, hey, but I can tell my mom or dad anything. And once you start practicing unpacking your traumas at 5 years old, they're going to continue to unpack their traumas at 10, at 15. And so when you don't unpack your trauma at 5, at 25, you grown, like, and you're going to feel like you're stuck in your ways, or I don't need to do this, or I don't need to do that, or I'm afraid to really go down that road. And you may not even have a clue, right? And by the time you're an adult, that affects so many different things. That affects how you operate on your job, your relationships, and then you having kids and passing those same negative, dysfunctional things down. And so, that's what I mean, just trying to just work on you first. Put those things in practice for yourself, and then passing those things on to your children, and I feel like we also just kind of, by the time we get to be an adult, you have kids, so now your trauma gets pushed all the way down to the bottom. It's still there, but now you got kids, that you got to take care of. Now you don't have time for yourself, right? So now all of my traumas don't matter. So now you're dealing with your husband's trauma, your trauma, and then your kids' trauma.
Yeah.
And so, like, you wonder why by the time 45 years old, you go to the doctor and it's like, I got high blood pressure, you got this, you
Yeah.
got that, and so it's all of that affects your physical health too. So,
Yeah. And so even with that, like opening up the avenues for discussion from a younger
mhm,
age, but then I'm going to switch now to another demographic, which is the men. Because
yeah,
women are we're naturally more talkative. So because of that, we do get to talk about, and like, for example, the thing that I said with me and my cousin, it was in a conversation that I didn't even know was therapy, that
wow,
I
yeah,
was able to get therapy.
hmm
Um, but then when it comes to men and the
hmm
stigma, which you mentioned a
yeah,
little bit earlier, um,
hmm
how do we get men to the place, or how do men get themselves to the place where it's okay for them to talk about what they're going through? For example, if looking at police brutality, for example,
hmm
the things that men are going through there, majority of the people who are harassed, stopped, killed, all of that are Black men.
hmm
And yet, again, that demographic of Black individuals are not really talking about that trauma. There is trauma in seeing somebody who looks just like you, same gender, everything, dying under the knee of somebody who's supposed to be protecting all of us, right?
hmm hmm
Where do we start even to start, encouraging men to get
So,
help with this? Yeah.
so I think this is a two-parter. So I always say start early with men, with
Okay.
boys. You really gotta start early with boys, right? Because by the time we're 30 years old, it's truthfully we have a lot of ego,
Yeah.
testosterone, and I'm not gonna open up to you. Like I'm just not. I'm already set in my ways, right? Unless
Uh-huh.
sometimes it takes a traumatic event for somebody to say, you know what, wow, like I'm just gonna just open up and
Mhm.
now I want to start something new, right, within my life. But to me, with boys, like we have taught our boys, and it's kind of, I'll make the comparison like this: we've brought our boys up, right, in an Amazon generation with the
Mhm.
Toys R Us mindset, and
Mhm.
Toys R Us is out of business. It's gone. Like
Mhm.
with these old school values, these old school ways of that you
Mhm.
have to be this super macho guy who doesn't talk. But what people don't tell boys is that vulnerability is power. To own
Yeah.
certain things,
Yeah.
right? To own yourself, to own your emotions, to know how to navigate those waters, to know
Love
to
that.
navigate your
Vulnerable
anger,
power.
to 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 navigate your anger in a more positive way, to navigate those feelings and those emotions that you feel, because it's kind of unfair to tell your kids or tell your sons don't express anything at all, man up,
Mhm.
just be a man and go each and every day about yourself. And then you get into a relationship when you're 25 or 30, and then you think because you have a pretty face that I'm just going to open up the floodgates and just know how to love you, know how to express my love for you, and know how to do all those things. Why?
Yeah.
Because you have a pretty face and a nice
Yeah.
body? No, it doesn't work like that.
Mhm.
I hate to say it, but it does not work in that way. And you
Mhm.
say, "Oh, men don't know how to communicate." Man, he doesn't know how to communicate with me. Well, did he grow up?
Correct.
Who
Yep.
gave him the permission to communicate? Who told him that it was okay to express love? Now, how can I express my love for you, first of all, if I don't even know what that feels like? So,
Mhm.
so it's like women is like from young expressing love, knowing how to communicate that love. I love you, and this and that, and they grew up with certain things, so they at certain point in time in their life they know how to communicate those feelings. As we're
Yeah.
as we're boys, it's just we were taught to suppress those feelings, right, and to suppress
Mhm.
those emotions, anger, love. Oh, don't show her that you love her. Certain things like that. Like, don't do that. So it's almost just like, well, how are we going to get our boys to this place that's on the same level
Mhm.
playing field as our women, right? But
Yeah.
truthfully, it's when they're 4 or 5. Like,
Yeah.
we really like we've got to stop, first of all, feminizing everything, because they grow up now
Yeah.
with 30 years old talking about, man, like, nah, that's what girls do. What I mean, I don't
Yeah.
talk about those type of things. That's what women do. But it's like,
True.
do you understand that men are dying from heart attacks? Like, facts, right?
Mhm.
Like how can we heal our homes and our community if our men aren't communicating and expressing, because just because you express, it doesn't mean that you're not strong. That's a fact.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Because in order for us to build a solid marriage and a solid foundation between two people, I have to know how to communicate my feelings with you, and you have to learn how to accept what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Express my feelings, because the one thing is true: if I express something to you and you shut it down, it's over. Like the guy's 9 times out of 10, he's gonna shut down and say, I can't trust her with my feelings, and I knew I shouldn't have done that. And this is why they say men shouldn't communicate, shouldn't talk, because she doesn't really know, like she doesn't hear my feelings. She don't. So it's a whole situation, right? So it's something that we have to get our boys early, because I can tell you, at 15 years old, that young man can have about 10 years worth of pent up aggression, anger, depression, anxiety, and sadness. And then he goes out into the world, and sometimes he can be angry and not know how to channel it, not know how to talk to the police officer, not know how to talk to his boss, not know how to talk to his woman, right? So these are things that have to be taught and instilled in us. And the reason why I say that is because growing up, my mother, and they were married 43 years. But my mother was the one that gave me the permission to express and to communicate. My dad was old school from the South. He was a great man, you know what I'm saying? But he was very stoic and quiet, and I learned a lot from him through examples and through action. But my mother was the one that said, hey, let him speak, let him communicate, let him be able to express himself about his day. I want to hear certain things, and it doesn't make him any less macho of a person. Now he's going to grow up to be a more well-rounded man, that he can talk and move in different circles and be okay. So I think it's very, very important, you know what I'm saying, to give our boys the permission to express their emotions at a younger age. And there's a difference between expressing emotions and, of course, overly expressing, and things like that. But but it's just, we have to get to a point where our boys can feel comfortable and have a truthful, safe space, even with our fathers, to be able to say, hey, I need to be able to talk and express certain things like that, So I think we have to get them early, because by the time we get to adults, it's just, I'm not gonna say it's impossible, but it's a harder, tougher conversation. And normally we're just so rock hard solid that it could be too late.
It's a hard thing to break, but I love your comment that vulnerability is power.
Super powerful.
Love that. Somebody said in the comments that we got to stop saying boys don't cry. I heard that a lot growing up to our little ones.
100%.
I hear that a lot. Yes, we do hear that a lot. And the other thing too is, like you said, when you learn by what you see, and a lot of what happens with a lot of our men is that, or just in general in our community, we keep busy. And the busyness is what we sometimes use as a distraction for, or as a way to, what's the word? I guess it's a distraction for the thoughts that are going on in our minds. We have work, we have sports, we have this, we have that. And then we kind of get to ignore or suppress what we're actually feeling when we've gone through trauma and when we're struggling with mental health and things like that. You hear things like, like a musician might say, like, I left it all in the song, or like my music is my therapy, or, sports, athletes say things like, I left it all on the court. Like I remember watching the Kobe Bryant documentary, and when he went through trauma with his parents' divorce, I think, or something like that. And he was saying like he played like the moving. It was all the moving that they were doing. And he said he dealt with that all of those transitions and different places that they were living, not having friends and all that trauma. He, practiced basketball like aggressively, and I mean, it worked out really well for his basketball career. But then you have to ask yourself, is it working really well for your mental health? So how do we recognize that when we're just using busyness? And even with COVID-19, if you notice, like so many things shut down, people stopped even going into work, And then we saw that there's a rise, at least here in Ontario, there's a rise in mental health issues, even in in kids.
Same thing here.
So, yeah, how do we recognize when we are using busyness to mask trauma?
So the one thing that you said is so true is what happens when the busyness stops, right? You know, especially here, you know, being born and raised in New York, it's always said can't stop, won't stop. You know, like, you know, that was the thing. Like we have to stay busy. We have to stay on the grind 24/7, 365. So we have this obsession with being on the grind, right?
Yeah.
But not really understanding that being on the grind is one thing. It's absolutely good. But the one thing that you do need to sleep. That's number one.
Yeah.
Like you do need to rest. And that's prevalent to your mental health and your emotional wellness, right?
Yeah.
But two, it's like you said, when you're always on the grind, you don't have any time for you. And you don't have any time for anything else, you know, but just the work. And it's a particular type of work. So whether it's your business or whether it's your 9 to 5 or whatever the case is, that's what that's feeding. So it's feeding that, right? But you're not feeding you, right? And the reason why a lot of times we stay busy to take the focus off of everything else, because it's harder to kind of look at yourself in the mirror and say, I need to take care of this particular problem that's been ailing me for the last 10 years. It's better if I just put it to the back burner and say, you know what? Oh, I have this project that I have to get done. It has to get done, you know, but the thing is, the thing that you put into the back burner at some point is going to rear its head to the forefront. You know, at some point in time in your life, it could be while you're raising children. It could be, you know, just you in the middle of the night and you just start busting out crying and you don't even know why. Right? Like this happens to a lot of different people to where they start crying and they don't know why. It's because you've put so much trauma on the back burner for so many years. It's overcome. It's going to come out eventually. It's at some point, and whether negatively, it's going to come out. You know, and so these are things that we have to recognize within ourselves and say, hey, listen, I have to show myself. And even because a lot of times it's stuff that it was our fault. So like, let's just say that I made a bad decision, you know, in my previous life or whatever the case is, I made a bad decision and I know I did it. I messed up. It's caused me a lot of pain and certain things, you know, in my life. I don't want to face that. It's not pleasant to face those things. So I put it to the back burner. But a lot of times we have to look at ourselves and give ourselves grace. Like we have to be able to give ourselves grace, you know what I'm saying, and forgive our own, you know what I'm saying, transgressions and things that we might have done wrong, right? Like we have to be able to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to face this. I'm truthfully going to face what is uncomfortable in my life, because that's the only way that you can move forward is to forgive yourself and to give yourself the grace to move forward. And say it's okay to start a new day, but you have to address these things with yourself first. Because if you can't forgive yourself, how can you forgive others who have wronged you, right? And to get the heaviness off of yourself, because forgiveness is not really for the other person. Everything is for you. You know, it's for your healing. You know, it's for your personal development. So these are things that I'm saying, like, we really have to wrap our heads around, you know, and face, you know, these things head on. And unpack things as they come, right? Like when you move into a brand new apartment, right? What happens? What happens if you just leave the boxes there? More boxes come, and more boxes come, and more boxes come.
Yeah, so it's full.
And then you buy some new stuff, and then now we have more stuff and more stuff and more stuff on top of more stuff. And so at some point you're like, man, I don't want to unpack all this stuff. It's gonna, you know. I got all this new stuff here. I don't want to unpack the old stuff, but the old stuff's not going nowhere, you know, until you decide to release it or you decide what you want to do with it. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, baggage is very expensive. You got to travel light. Baggage is very expensive, you know? And so if you learn to unpack from an earlier time in your life and make it a practice, then at the end of the day, by the time you're 30, 40, you'll be a much more healed, well-rounded individual. And that's what we hope to have in our communities, because it's not easy.
Yeah, and we desperately need this knowledge to know that like it's okay when you feel like it's overwhelmed, whatever the it is overwhelming you, to be able to talk about it, to be able to reach out to somebody, to talk to them about it. So I want to get into two specific mental health issues that are plaguing our community and that are on the rise in our community. One, depression, and two, anxiety. Like anxiety is like a pandemic on its own. What are for depression first? What's some of the telltale signs that maybe like maybe this sadness, is going on for way too long? And how do you know when you're struggling with depression first of all?
Well, some of the things, it could be like like if you're a relatively in shape person, physically, but you're always tired, right? You don't want to get out of bed. Just certain things that you just feel like a heaviness, like within, like myself, like you really have to start to look at yourself and say, man, like, why don't I want to do the things that I normally want to do? Right? Why? And that's something different that's not normally you, right? So like for me, for instance, I remember a couple, like 3-4 months ago, I think it was around Father's Day, because my father passed on October 29th of 2016. And so like Father's Day, you know what it is. It's kind of like one of those times, and like you start to realize like my energy was so low, right? My energy was just low. Like normally I'm up, I'm working on just different things. My mind is going 1,000 different ways, and I'm excited just about the day, and I'm going. But like sometimes I realized I would just sit on the couch at some point, and I felt like I was sinking into the couch, like,
wow, okay.
Right. And I'm just like, man, that was pretty heavy. Like, that's not normally like me. So a lot of times you got to be really in tune with just who you are. And the crazy thing is there's a lot of people who are high functioning too, though. They're depressed, but they're high functioning, right? So it's just like that you can still walk around doing your everyday things, like a lot of us try to be, and still say, all right, you can make it through the day and go. You can go in and lead these meetings, be on the Zoom calls, and do everything that you're asked to do and be high functioning. But it's like once you come down, you come down. Right. So it's just really just knowing yourself, knowing your body too, and saying, look, something is not right. And I think, and me, I'm naturally a night owl. I could stay up till 3 or 4 in the morning, but there was a time where I couldn't sleep. I couldn't, even when I wanted to, I couldn't sleep. And it was because I had thoughts of, my dad and, just things like that was going on around that time. And then, so then I said, oh, you know what? Like, I know what this is. Like, I know what this is. And now I have to go ahead and do something about it. Right. So it's just really just knowing just who you are as a person and acknowledging and being honest with yourself, because sometimes we know, but it's like, no, man, no, it's not it. It's good. It's going to pass. Yeah. But sometimes it doesn't, for a lot of people, it doesn't pass. Some people can stay 7 days in the bed. Some people can stay lights off, dark, and just stay 7 days in the bed. They don't want to do nothing. Right. That's, of course, that's a high level. Right. But but these are things that can absolutely happen. Right. So, I think it's just being in tune with us, being honest with us, and having the solutions available and say, hey, I do need to go speak to somebody. Let me call my therapist. Even if you're not on a week-to-week basis, you say, I noticed this. Let me schedule this session. I'm gonna need a couple weeks to really just work those things out. So I think those are some of the things that we can do.
Yeah. And then for the other one, depression. How do we recognize, anxiety. How do we recognize when we are struggling with anxiety?
Man, because there's so many triggers with anxiety. So for me, right, I had to notice that in 2018 is when I think I really had my bout with like anxiety, right? Like I was like, I got sick, right? And so I watched for years my parents, kind of be sick with certain things and ailments that they went through, and I had to take care and do a lot of different things. And truth be told, I didn't really think that affected me like that. Because I was in my early 20s, and then, all the way until 2018, I was like, oh, it was what it was until I got sick. And that was the trigger. Once I got sick, in a way of like pneumonia, like I was in every doctor that you could possibly imagine, just going through a battle with certain things. And all of it, like the memories of just dealing with my mom and, breast cancer, then my dad, leukemia, then my dad had one lung cancer, had one lung taken out, then colon cancer, right? Like, so like, I'm sitting here like, oh no, it's finally happening to me. Wow. So all of these thoughts started to rain on me. When I say like a storm, it just right in here. I started WebMDing. Like it was like WebMD is the devil. Everybody knows that. But at the end of the day, I was on WebMD every day. It was anxiety. I had anxiety, and there was a point where I said to myself, I'm going to die. I said, Terence is going to die, because I was like look at all that and all the trauma that I saw years ago. The trauma that I saw, I didn't even realize I had PTSD because of that.
My goodness.
Until a trigger happened, and that trigger sparked something within me that I didn't even think was a thing for me. Like I was the furthest thing from that. I was like, I'm good. Like I can handle everything. But all that stuff, just the thoughts, and it was constant, bad thoughts. And I was just like, what's wrong with me? And then I started to do a lot more research, and then I started to see, this is why, I started to become more, yes, I was a life coach, but over the last couple of years, I was like, I need this mental health and emotional advocacy. Like, I really want to be that, because I went through some things like up top, and I was just like, wow, like I didn't think that could happen to me. And if I didn't think that could happen to me, there's a lot of people that don't think that could happen to them. And having those anxiety, and I didn't even go through it the worst. There are some people that actually have those anxiety attacks and like, like the chest pains and things like that, so, but I would literally be on the subway going to work in Manhattan thinking like, is this going to be my last day? Because I'm really sick and I'm doing this. And mind you, I was going to work. And mind you, I was going to work with these thoughts. And it's like, well, why would you go to work? Like if you're this sick, but again, it's like, I have to do this and I have to do that. And I have to do all the other things. Right. So, I think it's just a point of, again, just knowing yourself and pay attention to the triggers. The triggers, like pay attention to what triggers your thoughts and what triggers your negative emotions, because those are going to be the things that's going to give you all types of anxiety, So I think it's just knowing what really plagues you, and then once you realize it and you get a hold on it, now the action steps. All right, so what can I do to unpack this trauma? And for me, I had to really go, therapy and just unpack those things out, right? And then now I have the knowledge, and I said, wow, so this is something that was plaguing my mental health for probably years, but again, it was on the back burner, and it's something that reared its ugly head once I got triggered, because I got sick, and there was so much uncertainty about it, so, and it made things a lot more worse than it actually was. But that's anxiety, though.
Yes.
So
yeah. And even you've mentioned that a couple times, people who care for others, like you are an individual who is in a field where you're like, bring me your troubles.
All of it. I want all of it. Bring it. Yeah.
I can take it. Give me your stories, right? So
right here. That's it.
Like because of that, those of us who care for other people typically have that pattern of ignoring ourselves. So I did not plan on asking you this, but please speak to self-care, please, because you've talked a lot about like mentioning recognizing triggers, or recognizing, the changes in your mind, in your thoughts, in your body and stuff like that, in your behavior. Talk to us a little bit about self-care and how important that is, because we're out here on the streets. Many of us are, day by day right now protesting, or day by day petitioning governments. We're in the courtrooms. We're taking after our sons who have been incarcerated. We're doing, like, there's so many things that, or we ourselves are incarcerated. So there's so many, we're at risk of incarceration. So talk to us a little bit about how we take care of ourselves, like daily practices that we can do to kind of be mindful of what's going on with me, basically.
It's funny that you said that. It's because we do everything that we have to do because it's priority, right? Except for the number one priority, which is us.
Yes.
Right. Like we do everything for everybody else, for working our kids and all this stuff. But the one thing that we all have to really have to understand, and this is so true, is that if we're not good, I don't care how strong you are, your kids are not going to get the best version of you if you're not whole. Your husband and wife is not going to get the best version of you. Your peers, your family, your friends. So like we have to be able to take care of us first. Now, self-care for everybody could be different. For some people, it's, it could be going to get your nails done. I mean, I don't know about right now, but, it's more so, maybe going to get your nails done, a manicure, pedicure, going to get a massage. For guys, it could be, hey, I'm going to go grab one of my guys and go get some wings and watch a game. And it's funny. It's because something so small, like I'm going to go with my boy to watch a game at a bar for 2 hours means the world to me, but for whatever it is that you do, take time for yourself, read a book, right? A lot of times, get a journal, read those things out. There's something called the 5-minute journal. It's absolutely amazing. I recommend it to anybody. And it really makes you practice, those self-care, and actually helps you also practice gratitude for the things you have in life too. So what are some great things that happened? What are 3 things that happened today that made you happy? What are 3 things that didn't go so well? And what are some things that you can do better for the future? So it practices many of those different aspects. So I would just say, truthfully, just giving yourself permission and grace to say, hey, it's okay. For me to do something for me today. And I know mothers struggle with that too. There's mother's guilt and things like that. But you guys need it more, because it's like, hey, you do need that hour to yourself, that alone time, and that time to say, hey, I am a mother, yes, but I'm a woman too. And I have to give myself permission to say, hey, you know what? I just need some downtime, and that's okay. Maybe my mother, my grandmother, my spouse can take the kid an hour and a half or 2, but I need to go do this, and I've made it a practice even for me, for my female friends, and I said sometimes I'll just send them gift cards to go to the spa. I say, yo, listen, I know you need it. God bless and go. Take time out, and I'm on them to make sure. Like, yo, listen, did you schedule it? No? Or well, we're going to make sure that we're going to schedule this right now. And we've got to be those advocates for our friends too. Because sometimes they're going so hard, like they don't even realize it themselves. So it's not just always about me, but it's also about me. But then I know I need it. I know they need it too. So it's about building that bridge of community too, like with your people, man. To making sure that they do the right things too.
And that's awesome too. That's a word right there, because if we will march for each other, then we should also be willing and able to check in on each other. So that is a gem right there. Very important. Also some factors that affect our mental health, things like loss. Grief is it's weird to me because I feel like I don't really know how to deal with it. Like I went to a funeral this week and I just felt so strange. Like, do I cry? Should I cry? Is it weird to cry? Like, you know what I mean? Like, should I cry maybe in private? And I tend to do this thing where I'll like hold in all of my feelings of losing someone or losing something. And then like a month or 2 down the line is when I'm like bawling over the situation. So how do we grieve in a healthy way? Like, we've lost a lot as a people, not just human life, but even like, I mean, we're in countries where we weren't originally from. That's a huge
Right.
loss, you know?
Hmm.
But in general, how do we grieve in a healthy way?
Well, I think grief always looks different for everybody else, you know.
Hmm.
Like when my dad died, the best way I could put it is I had to do a lot, right? I had to, you got to plan, you got to do a whole bunch of different
Yeah.
things. It's like a whole workup, right? So
Hmm.
I had to go up there and do a speech and read a poem that my mom wanted me to read from her to him. Okay, great. So you go through all those things, and some people say, man, you held it down, man, like, yeah, like you was good. And I was like, yeah, I was good. But let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Every service was over. They rolled the casket away. Boom! Right at that moment when they rolled the casket away,
Yeah.
I couldn't take it. Like,
Yeah.
and not even like I was forced. It just naturally just came out.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because most people were looking like, man, like you didn't cry at these times, or you didn't cry at this moment. Like
Yeah.
you
So
were
what
up
happened?
there,
Yeah.
like you were up there,
Yeah.
and you was saying this thing, and you didn't even like break down there. You good, but it at some point it happens to everybody, and I say everybody grieves differently. And it's healthy to grieve. It's a necessary thing, especially when you have loss. And some people feel like loss just means death. But like you said, it could be a job. It could be,
Yeah.
what we're seeing on the news every single
Hmm.
day, what's
Hmm.
going on in our communities.
Hmm.
Like we have to give ourselves, again, grace and say, it is okay for me to grieve. It is okay for me to cry. You have to let that out. Like you have to be aware of yourself to say, man, you know what, man, this hurt. Like
Hmm.
this really hurt me, and there's nothing wrong with it hurting me, And the one thing though I will say about grief that we have to stop doing is comparing griefs, like comparing grief,
Yes.
So like
Yeah.
if God forbid like you lose somebody, and I'm like, oh yeah, I lost my cousin too, and see, because then that makes it not about the person, that makes it more about me. And at that
Hmm.
moment, it's not about me. It's about the person. So it's not about me trying to relate to your grief. I have to be there for you in the way that you need me to be there for you.
Hmm.
Like that's like, and it's not just at that moment of if somebody passes, then I gotta be there, be there, be there, be there. Because truthfully, I didn't need people at that moment of when things happen. I needed people
Hmm.
after the funeral.
Yeah.
Because when everybody goes off to their regular lives and I come down from being busy, I have to sit with this.
Hmm.
And you need people to be there that's when you need people to be there for you. So it's really just, just giving yourself the grace to grieve. Don't compare griefs. And the one book, if there's anybody, I think this book is for everybody.
Yeah.
And it's this book right here. It's okay that you're not okay. This is a book about how to deal with grief. It's a book about, even if you haven't lost, it's about how do you deal with others who are going through griefs, and it goes through a whole bunch of just different things. I swear by it. I recommend it. I make no money off of this. It has nothing to do with me, but when I read it, when I tell you, it opened my eyes
Yeah.
about dealing with people who are grieving, and even with dealing with my own.
Hmm.
It was amazing.
So that's let me see in the chat. Yes, please don't compare grief. Yeah, that is true, because
Yep.
that does happen a lot. And because of that, sometimes even internally, we hold back on our expressions of grief because we're too concerned by if people are, well, it's not my like biological brother, so why am I crying this hard? Like, or something, you know what I mean? Like those type of things, I think sometimes we even judge ourselves, compare our, within our own selves, our grief to other people. And
Yes.
definitely, yeah, that is true, that we should not do that. Now, as a life coach, I'm sure that some of the things that you advise your clients or your the people who you're mentoring is to watch your words. And a lot of times we hear things like speak life or speak, in the Judeo-Christian circles, etc. We'll hear people saying a lot of that. How important is what we say? Even what I was saying about the grief, and in my own head comparing, like, am I crying too hard? Or like, how do we tailor our words to move us into a place where we are developing a healthy mental space?
Mhm. So for me, it's affirmations. Just getting in the mirror like every single day, and if you're not comfortable getting in the mirror, but just saying things to yourself like, you know what, I am gonna do great things today. I am gonna crush this project today. I am gonna get this promotion. I am great. Like we have to really get into just saying, incredible things about ourselves because
Mhm.
honestly, the news isn't going to say it about us. Like a lot of times your boss isn't going to say it about you,
Mhm.
like we have to be our own advocates for ourselves, and saying certain things over our lives is absolutely powerful. Like we have to be positive, and it's not saying that we have to be positive all
Sorry,
the
we
time.
have
Good.
like two. All right, sorry guys. Just lost the connection. Gonna wait a little bit and see if we can finish off and get back to that conversation. Hello, everybody. Glad you guys were able to come back. Sorry, I forgot that Instagram does this whole 1 hour thing. So we'll wait for Terence and then I'll let him back on. All right, glad you guys are back. We're waiting for Terence. All right.
All right.
You're back.
All right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
thought
It's
it was
okay.
like an hour long or something like that. I should have texted. But so yes, affirmations. Please continue.
Oh, okay, yes, yes. So when it comes to just affirmations, I do believe in speaking life over yourself,
Mhm.
because sometimes growing up, you may not have even heard the best things about yourself in life. Like
Mhm.
and this is no disrespect, but sometimes parents, may not know how to compliment you. They may not have told you
Yeah.
the nicest things in your life. So now you have to take ownership of that, right? And speak, all of the
Mhm.
blessings over your life that you can. You can't wait for somebody else to speak over your life. You know what I'm saying? Only you can really speak the life, that you want into yourself. So I'm all about those affirmations. You know what? I am going to write this book. I am going to do 10 pages of work today. Like, and you can even break it down. It doesn't even have to be so macro, like, oh, I'm going to own this business in 2023. Like, no, it could be like, you know what? I am going to take these steps towards my
Mhm.
business. I am going to study for 10 pages. I am going to crush this term paper or whatever it is catered to your life. I
Mhm.
am going to help my kid unpack his or her trauma.
Yeah.
I am going to start today, and I feel like a lot of us do that when it comes to like the gym and stuff like that. We have these,
Mhm.
these resolutions and we're going to do it. But no, I think it's every day,
Yeah.
I like for you on Canada, a mental health day, a month is in October. For us, it's in May. But to me, I don't even acknowledge that mental health awareness for me is every day. Just like Black History Month,
Mhm.
it's February, but it's January, February, March, April, May.
Yeah.
It's 12 months. It's every day. And mental health awareness for me is every single day. Now, are you always gonna go in to get it right? No. But as long as you actually have, what I'm saying, the fortitude and the intention to make it every day for your life, then I think, then you'll be on the right track.
I love that. I'm over here taking notes. I love it. Thank you, Terence.
Hmm.
My last question for you is there are so many uncontrollable external factors that have an impact on us every day.
Hmm.
And other than affirmations, what are some things what would like your top 5 list, let's say, of advice for everyone to maintain mental health?
Well, one, I would say is, well, not, no, I won't say any particular order because everybody's different, but I would
Okay.
say journaling, is
Mhm.
absolutely, to me, is so helpful. Men and women. Um, you know,
Mhm.
there's a journal here. It's called the Glow Journal. It's gratitude, love, oasis, and wellness. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Um,
Okay.
that's something that I think it is a great tool. One,
Mhm.
find a therapist that you trust. And I say that because you may not get it right the first time. It's like finding a doctor that you actually like, you know.
Okay.
And it could take a while because it just may not be the vibe between you and that therapist. But find a therapist that you can trust. You know,
Mhm.
that may look like you. You know, that could actually help too. That could understand the traumas that you're going through on
Okay.
a daily basis. Um, you know, so definitely journaling, affirmations. And finding a therapist. Now, for me, you know, I'm a faith guy, so you know, if you know me, I pray. You know, that's something that I do. You know, some people do, and some people don't. You know, but to me,
Mhm.
prayer works. It works wonders for me. Brings
Mhm.
me peace. You know, but it's like I said, faith without works is dead. So I could pray all I want, but if I don't get the therapy
Mhm.
that I need, then it really doesn't.
Yeah.
The prayer goes, Lord, find me the right therapist, please,
Yeah.
because you know what I'm saying. Like I need to
Yeah.
find the right therapist for
Yeah.
me, right? So you know, so to me, prayer works. That's something that I do, and I find peace when I look after others. So for me,
Mm.
I I say pay it forward. You know, so it's not so I do the prayer, I do the affirmations, you know, I do the journaling, you know, I do all those things and the therapy. But for me, I have to pay it forward.
Mhm.
So what brings me the most peace is, you know what, I need to do check-ins with my family and friends. Like that helps me. That's therapeutic for me
Mhm.
because if I love you, I don't want you going through certain things. I gotta
Mhm.
check in. Like I have to make sure, you know what I'm saying, that you okay. And that's therapeutic for me because I know that my circle is doing all right. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Because the worst thing for me that I could ever look back on and say, why didn't I check in?
Yes. Yeah.
Why didn't I do those things when I know I have the ability to? Like it's not like it's 50s where
Yeah.
like we can
Call,
text. It's
text,
literally
email,
just a text, email,
Facebook.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for people that say that they're too busy to do those things, it's like I said, I send out future dated text messages to my friends. So like in my phone, I'll have right about now probably 10 messages ready to go, all for over the next couple of weeks. Because I know over the next
Wow.
couple of weeks, I'm gonna be busy. I'm gonna be traveling to go visit family. I'm gonna be doing certain things, but those messages will go out because I know, hey, I might forget. So it's just making the time, and not finding those excuses. You know, so that's to me is something that I do. And that's what
Mhm.
makes me feel better too. Because once I know that my best people are good, it brings me some peace. You know,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
because people are dying, as we all know, at an early age, it's not just for the old. It's not just
Mhm.
for the old anymore, right? So it's just, hey, bro, how you doing? I feel I care about you, think about you, bro, love you, and that's both my God friends and both. It's
Yeah.
everybody, family, and to me makes me feel incredible. To
Mhm.
know that my people are doing good. You know, so that's what I do. It's just pay it forward. So all the things that I do, I just pay it forward, and to make sure that they're okay.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, thank you so much, Terence, for this conversation. This was so, so needed. I know everybody's been well informed and blessed by all of your information, like all the information that you've shared, all of your
Mhm.
advice. I can't wait to read your book. Yes,
Yes,
2021.
yes, yes. Yo, yeah,
I'll
I'm
be
ready to
waiting
go.
for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
um, can I
Yeah.
say just one more thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I was gonna ask you. Yeah.
So the one thing about mental health for me is that I wanted to touch on just a touch is societal pressures. Um, you know, from family and from friends. Like, guys, don't worry about what people are saying to you. Don't worry about what people put on you. Like,
Yeah.
truthfully speaking, focus on yourself. Don't, you know, the one thing that I hate and that I do not do is when people put pressures on women. Oh, so when you're going to have a kid? So when you're going to have a child? So when you're going to do this? So when you're going to get married? All that stuff it causes mental health breakdowns, right?
Mhm.
Because you don't even know if that person has been trying. and they've miscarried or whatever the case is, right? Like these are things that all plague people and that plague us as a society, is when you have these societal pressures of your family come, oh, when you're going to have my grandbaby, stuff like that, right? Like, it's just like, how do you know that I haven't been trying already? You don't know I've had 3 or 4 miscarriages. You don't even know that. You don't know that I'm having complications. But guess what? You're putting your stuff on me. And it's just like, so I just want to encourage people, you know, saying to just block out the noise. And if you're doing it, don't put these pressures, you know what I'm saying, on other people as well, because we tend to do it. It's cultural too. You know, it's just something that we do as a community, you know, to put what our expectations of that we think should be on other people. And we do that to our kids. And it's just a generational whole dysfunctional cluster, man. And, you know, I just kind of just wanted to just touch on that.
That is very true. It's very true. And we have another question. Someone was asking for their 3-year-old. The person's a single mom, and the 3-year-old has not seen their father before. Would that child at that age have trauma already?
If they have not seen their father at all? Well, I think that is a possibility, especially if they start to go to school and see other kids with their fathers. Then that can start questions, right? You know, like, well, where's my dad and things like that. They can start asking those questions, and then that's when the trauma can actually start. But that's something that you can get ahead of. You know what I'm saying? You know, from, you know, at some point in time, you know, and get ahead of it and start having those type of conversations. Those tough conversations, you know what I'm saying? And then maybe start the therapy as well at a certain point in time. You know, once the family counseling should be available to you, you know, but I would just say absolutely, you know, they can actually start to experience those traumas and that jealousy of, well, how come they have mommy and daddy, and how come their daddy's picking them up, and how come you're you know, where's, you know, and then that's where it starts, right? That type of stuff, you know, and then, you know, but most people a lot of times don't address those things with their children, right? Until they already have trauma, until they're old enough to be like 10, 12, 13, 14, and it's like, oh, well, you know, then it's like, yeah, you know, so, you know, just pay attention to that and start asking the questions. Well, how was your day? Well, how was after school? What'd you do? Right? Because sometimes kids may not express that. They might just observe and just, all right, cool. And then they get older, and then that's when they start to maybe understand things a little bit more and go, man, yeah, you're right. Like, how come my dad never picks me up? It's been 3, 4, 5 years. I haven't seen my dad pick me up. Like, why? Like, why is it like this? And then, like, you just want to kind of be ahead of the curve, like with that, and maybe start easing into those conversations at an earlier age. And if you see it start to become a problem, then maybe enter that part into family, you know, family counseling, family therapy, and things like that. So yeah, you know, that would be just my advice as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, that's awesome. Because sometimes, and sometimes the trauma manifests itself in different ways in kids as well. So then, like you said, asking those questions, talking, and being open from that age is very important.
Yeah. It's absolutely super important, you know, and definitely just don't be afraid of therapy. You know, I know culturally there's a stigma and a shame that goes along with therapy. Unfortunately, you know, I don't know where it comes from. I mean, it's constant, and you get it from all areas. You know, like your family look at you crazy, and then if you go to church, your church folk look at you crazy. They telling you that you ain't praying hard enough. You know what I mean? Like it's just crazy. Your boys look at you like something wrong with you, and people in school, like, it can get crazy. But I don't care what anybody says. Like, if you need therapy, it's for you and it's for nobody else. So it's for your healing, and it's for nobody else, because at the end of the day, you're gonna be looking like a whole healed person, and they're gonna be looking, you know, crusty. You know, at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, and you could tell a whole healed person from somebody who's not. You know what I'm saying? So that's all I'm saying. Therapy is solely for you. It's your business, and don't let anybody tell you differently. You know what I'm saying? We gotta break these stigmas. We got to break these generational curses. And the only way that we're going to do it is if we're really truthfully going to start really doing things differently and changing everything that we do culturally and breaking those chains and saying, you know what, that's not okay. Just because it comes from the old school generation, not everything from the old school is good, first of all. You know what I'm saying? Because, well, first of all, look at our country.
Yeah, true.
Right? Right. Everything from America, you know what I'm saying, it's not good. And those are old school principles, right? So look at it as from your house, too. Everything from your house that you were taught from your grandfather and you love them and you care for them. And that's not what I'm saying. But it's just, it's not all good. You know what I'm saying? And we got to break a lot of those things. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
And if I can ask you one more question.
You can ask me whatever you want.
Okay, perfect. So anger. This is something that I know affects my mental health greatly. Like, I think it has to be a little bit of the fact that I do suppress a lot of things, and then also the fact that I do have a little bit of anxiety. So it kind of meshes together and comes out as outbursts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I did do a little bit of therapy myself with learning how to better deal with my anger and how to better recognize when my stomach is starting to knot up and I'm starting to feel that explosion coming up. But what is your advice, especially with all the trauma that we've been through as a people? There's a lot of reasons for us to be very angry, but how can we channel that? Like, how can we make use of that angry energy and do something productive versus destroying the people around us and ourselves?
I mean, that is a great question because I think we all go through it, right? So I've done something interesting. So I've had a hard time focusing on like writing, right, my book and certain things. Like throughout these last couple of months, it's just been like this, like for me, right? And so I kind of felt, kind of guilty about that. So I was thinking about a way that I could kind of get back on the horse. So what I just like to do is whenever I started feeling like angry, either anger or depression or whatever the case is, or just something like heavy, I said, I'm gonna write. I said I am going to write. And not necessarily write my book, but I'm going to write it out, which honestly has helped me kind of get my creative juices flowing in other areas, right? That I'm supposed to be writing in. But I would just start writing it out, you know what I'm saying? And just getting it out. So to me, there has to be an outlet for anger. And sometimes it may not be just being productive. Because sometimes you like being angry, you don't want to be productive a lot of times. You want to just get it out. And so for me, getting it out could be writing. That's one form for me getting it out. And then I'm challenging myself, just say, you know what? Whenever I'm feeling like this, I gotta do 10 push-ups, 10 sit-ups, because I know I gained some COVID weight. I'm honest. I gained some COVID weight. Uber Eats has been good to me. So after I was cooking before and doing all this stuff and being healthy and all that stuff, it's been a little too good. So I said, you know what? I gotta channel these things, you know what I'm saying? And, either push-ups, sit-ups, writing, something that I know is going to benefit me. Somebody said run. Yes. Me, I don't like to run, but, I actually just got an indoor bike. So, that's something that I could do as well. But channel the anger, into something positive that is going to benefit you, that can create that release. Because sometimes you want to feel that physical release. For me, before COVID, I was doing boxing. One of my boys, he owns a boxing gyms, and I would just go there and just it was amazing for me, right? So we're not doing that now. Well, I'm not doing that now. So I said we got to find different ways to get myself back in the areas that I need to get back. So like you, I used to do it like when I was younger. I would release in a negative way. I would get out on the road and drive like 100 miles an hour. You know why? That release, the endorphins, that release. Yeah. And I loved it, but I got tickets, when I was younger because of it, and it was dangerous, right? See, so like now, being older, I said, listen, man, I'm not getting out there on the road, getting no more tickets. My insurance is not going up no more. Like, I am good. Like, you know, I learned my lessons with that, you know. So you want to challenge, channel it in a more positive way. So whatever that is for you, and finding a friend that's not necessarily like your spouse, you know, because we like to tend to unload on our spouses everything or whatever the case is. And it's just like, sometimes that's not so good either. Like like, yes, you should talk to them, but when you unload on them and you're angry, it's like that's a different thing, because it's like now they're taking the brunt of your anger, and that's not healthy either. So maybe calling your homegirl, calling your homeboy and saying, man, I need to talk it out. I have to talk it out, and I need somebody to just be there to talk it out, you know. And sometimes we need that good talk, you know, like we have to have those relationships. And if you don't have those relationships, try to facilitate some type of relationships with your cousin, whoever it is that you have in your life. Find that one person that you can go to and talk to, you know, because this whole notion, again, this comes from the old school. Whatever happens in this house stays in this house. Yeah. And but the problem is, it don't just stay in the house. It stays in here. It stays in here. It eats you up from the inside out, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I never understood. What happens in this house stays in this house. No, what's happening in this house is not going to kill me. That's number one. It's not going to kill me. I'm going to talk to the therapist, and she's going to be outside of this house, you know, because it's somebody that's neutral or whatever the case is. Like, we have to be able to kind of get it out, you know what I'm saying, in some way, right? Because when it stays in the house, it affects everybody in the house. And that's the problem. It affects your kids. It affects your husband. Your wife, your husband or wife is looking at you crazy, looking like now that they want to kill you. You know what I'm saying? For all the stuff that you putting them through, and they had nothing to do with it. You know, and it's always easier to hurt the person that's next to you, the person that is rocking with you, and that's the people that you're not even supposed to be hurting like that. Right. You know what I'm saying? Life is already hard enough. You shouldn't be adding to my problems and stress. You know what I'm saying? Especially if I got nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Like, you can blame me for not taking out the garbage, not doing the dishes. You have enough to blame me for. But your excess anger and stuff like that, or whatever the case is, it's just, you know what? No, man, like, you have to unpack that. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times your spouse can't be your therapist. Not all the time. You know what I'm saying? Because then they start looking at you like you're a client.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's just utilizing all of the tools that you have. And of course, your spouse is going to be there for you 100%, of course. But if you utilize other avenues too as well, it'll kind of make your house a lot less, you know, tense and a lot less, you know, a stressful pace, because your house is supposed to be a place of peace, a place of refuge, right? You know, a place where you can just be comfortable to just lay down and put your hair down or whatever the case is. And in many houses, it's just the opposite. It's very tense. It's very stressful, because people are internalizing everything, and they're exploding on the people that they love the most, and even their kids and their children. And their children feel it. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we've got to do a better job of unpacking our own stuff. That's that is our responsibility. It's not the kid's fault. That's your responsibility as an adult to unpack your own stuff.
So finding that network is crucial then.
It's been amazing for me. It's been crucial for me. And also just it's like I said, just finding things to channel your anger, more positive ways to channel your anger, instead of yelling at the person next to you or your kids and stuff like that. You know, it's just not a good place to be, you know. So to me, your network, you know, is your net worth. And I don't even mean money wise. I mean up here too. Yeah.
Definitely. All right. So thank you so very much, Terence, once again. It's been awesome talking to you. I'm sure so many people have, you know, I have notes. I've been writing my notes here, as you can see, you know.
Yes, absolutely.
All the gems you've been dropping. So thank you so very much, and enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and hopefully we'll chat again.
Hopefully. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care, everybody, and tune in to all the things that are going on here at ABC. Stay tuned. DM us if this is your first time here, so you can join us on our various platforms. Thank you all so much. Take care and enjoy your Sunday. Blessings. All right, take care. Bye.